Hello, Tanya. How are you?
Hey, Tafa, nice to be here. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for joining episode 13 of Impactful Conversations. It's great to have you here, and for everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us. We have Tanya Venter here, who's a digital transformation analyst. She has extensive experience in marketing and sales, and I'm thrilled to have her here. We're going to be talking a little bit about Tanya's life, her career. We're going to be talking a little bit about digital transformation in South Africa, particularly in South African context, as well as a little bit about creating shared value. So, Tanya, I'm really excited to dig into these topics with you. I know we're recording this on a very crispy Sunday afternoon in Johannesburg,
It's
and
cold today, actually, very cold.
like it's the onset of the cold front, and people in Cape Town are telling me that yeah, it's quite bad. I know a couple of people who bared the brunt of it over the weekend. But thank you so much for coming onto the show, and I'm really excited to chat to you. So, where we typically start with an episode is, we typically start off just to get to know you a little bit better. So, I just want to understand from you, so where are you from? What did you study, and what are you passionate about?
Cool. So I'm Josie, born and bred. Been here, grown up my whole life. Went to school here, and after school, sort of came out of matric with quite a good matric. Did pretty well academically, and felt quite a lot of pressure to do something quite academic and technical. So that's when I decided I'm going to go and study chemical engineering at UCT.
Okay.
So before that, the kind of rationale behind it was that I always wanted to be in business, and to have an engineering degree does give you the edge. And I really actually loved maths and science at school. I was super passionate about it. So I thought, let me go do that. I'd love it. Let's see how it goes. So I went to UCT. Actually, that's where I met you. In engineering.
I remember.
The very first day, I was this blonde girl in engineering.
I remember, yeah. In I think it was Snape Lecture Theatre, right? I think it was our first class. Yeah, I remember that.
Exactly. And so I packed up everything and said, if I don't go to Cape Town and experience it, because I'd always wanted to go, if I don't do it then, I'm not going to do it. So I went there and did it, and I actually really didn't enjoy it. It wasn't something that I'd get up every day and feel very good about. I was quite unhappy, quite depressed. I didn't feel that it followed through on what my idea of what my life wanted to be like. And I couldn't see my sort of purpose and dream coming through there, and I wasn't really passionate about it. So I then made quite a tough decision. I know that, it was quite difficult for me to come to the terms of the fact that this was the wrong decision. And I could have stayed then, could have carried on, but I'm one of those people that believe that every single day you should wake up and do something that you love. And you shouldn't be living to the weekend all the time. So I packed up my stuff, and after first year, I decided to reimagine what my purpose would be and what I would want to do with my life. And obviously, I've always been passionate about business, and I love business, but I didn't want to stay in the traditional tertiary space. So I investigated a couple of options after first year. I'd always loved the idea of Vega. Vega's a brilliant brand leadership school, and come up with quite a cool degree, BCom in strategic brand management, and it seemed quite awesome to me. New curriculums, they were always very much on the forefront of innovation, so I was very interested in it, and I wanted to stay away from the traditional BCom sort of sphere. Staying in Cape Town. I didn't want to stay in Cape Town. I didn't want to necessarily go to Tux and stay in that traditional space. I wanted to be quite a challenging new environment, and Vega's also quite smaller, small scale, and so I found myself there doing my BCom, and I absolutely loved it.
With that, I mean, so just before we sort of touch on that part of the journey, and we actually had a question from one of our listeners about, so how did it actually feel to drop, chemical engineering? I mean, to sort of go through that process where you had to say, you know what, actually, this is not right. This is not what I need to do. And this is actually not my path. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And to make that change, how did that feel?
So it was quite daunting. I'm not going to lie. To have to think about your decision and realize that it was the wrong one. And it's quite a daunting process to go through, but I think it's an important one. I think the reality is that we don't live perfect lives, and that it's okay to make decisions and then realize that they were the wrong ones. But I say that it's the wrong one in the sense that it wasn't the right path for me, but am I grateful that I made the choice to go to Cape Town? Of course. Because I wouldn't have realized that it wasn't the right sort of journey for me to go on. And I think what's really important is that to realize that just because you've made that wrong choice, or choice that isn't necessarily along the line that you want, that you can still track back and go in the path that you really want to live your life on.
That's really powerful. And I think, you sort of talking that through in terms of the actual value of actually going through that, as opposed to sort of, making a completely different choice and never having to go through that process where you invariably are really introspecting about what you want to do in life and what you actually are built for and what you want to achieve as well. And I think that's a really sort of powerful step. So let's talk a little bit about, Vega. We actually had a question as well from our listeners. Sorry, I'm just bringing out these questions in early. We love our listeners. So our listeners give awesome questions, and I think I've always told my guests that just beware, my listeners give amazing questions. But so the one question was, how did you actually get into Vega, and why Vega? And how did that sort of lead into Gibbs as well?
Yeah, so I think I kind of touched on a bit of that earlier when I said, when I was imagining where would kind of fit with my new purpose and what I wanted to do. I had encountered Vega before because they'd done a couple of competitions with my school. I went to Crawford. So that's how I kind of found my path and found my way there. And it was a really great decision. I really enjoyed it. It was the right place for me to be. The curriculum is super new and innovative, and they sort of teaching you the very forefront of the industry, specifically brand strategy. And then after I'd finished my degree, my BCom in strategic brand management, I kind of thought to myself, I'm not really ready to work. I don't know what it is that I want to go into. I mean, though I had always worked while I was studying, I'd always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I was always selling something or teaching maths and science on the side, or tutoring, or doing something. I didn't look at a job title and see, okay, that's exactly what I want to go and do. I didn't see that and get excited about it. So I was quite overwhelmed with that when I finished my undergrad. I didn't really feel like I was ready to step into the working world. And I thought that, I need to get a bit more exposure, because right now my business view is a bit like this, and I wanted to kind of broaden my business view. And that's kind of where I found myself to my journey to Gibbs. So after I did my undergrad, I then applied to do my postgrad in postgraduate diploma in business administration. They call it PDBA. So when you finish an undergrad, you can either go and do a specialized honors where you focus on one area and you do a thesis in it and you specialize. But I didn't want to carry on specializing in brand strategy. I figured that I'd found enough information there. I'd kind of developed the skills that I need to do, but I want to get that broader sense. And that's what the PDBA kind of does for you. It gives you, it's like a mini MBA where you can really get a broad business sense and get a lot more practical hands-on experience. And that was an unbelievable journey for me, because getting into Gibbs was a completely sort of different experience to anything I'd done before. Gibbs promised that I would go on this amazing journey. And I kind of didn't really realize what was in for me, because, Gibbs really focuses on the personal development side as much as the actual academic qualification. And I think that was something that I really needed last year. I really needed to go and kind of find myself and what it is that I love and what it is I'm passionate about and what I want to do with my life. I didn't want to go straight into work and just go and get a job for the sake of getting a job and not really love what I'm doing.
And I think it's so important, right? The timing of, when you enter the working world, and not putting that pressure on yourself to say, well, actually, it's time to go into work right away. It's actually realizing, hold on, I need to broaden my perspective. I need to broaden my skill set, which is obviously what you did. You already had a skill set. You already had a very good perspective of what the business world was like because of your sort of your past experience in that. But that sort of step to broaden it, I think, is really powerful. So right now, I mean, your let's talk a little bit about your career. How would you sort of link your career to your purpose at the moment?
So while I was at Gibbs last year, I did a lot of self-exploration and discovery and trying to realize what it is that actually motivates me. I think people don't realize the power in fundamentally understanding what it is that makes them tick. I mean, not that I've found every nook and cranny of who I am, but I've tried to take some time to think about what truly makes me happy and motivates me. And I'd initially wanted to kind of maybe go into some corporate marketing position or something like that. But then I started realizing that it's going to be a bit too boxed in for me for now, because I'm not going to be able to get experience with a lot of different types of businesses. It's only going to be one business and one department. So I actually had never kind of considered the aspect of consulting before. I didn't really know what it was. And my perception of consulting was always management consulting. People that's, the BCGs, the Bains, all those sorts of things where it's very traditional, based on corporate level strategies and things like that. Yeah. So I hadn't considered it before. And then I started doing a lot of research and realizing that there's a lot more of a space in consulting and digital transformation. And it's something I've always really loved, innovation and sort of creative thinking and things like that. And then I found quite an awesome opportunity in that space to be in management consulting, but in a sphere that was really going to hone on my skill set and what I really want to do. And I one of the nicest parts of it was the autonomy of it all. Is that you could carve your own sort of destiny within a consulting firm based on different projects you go on, and kind of decide on your career and what you want to do. And the short-term sort of sprints of projects that you can be on is quite awesome, because you can do lots of different things. And that's what I really loved about it. I didn't want to be boxed in one specific area. And that's what really motivated me to do that. And in terms of my purpose, I don't know if anybody really knows what their purpose really is. I do think it's important to explore aspects of what makes you happy and what you want to do. So I think my biggest aspect of my purpose is that wherever I want to go, I want to evoke change, and I want to be able to make a meaningful impact. I don't want to just go somewhere and not leave my mark. And that's what really motivates me and makes me happy, is being able to change someone's perspective or their thinking or the way that they see something, the way that they do something. What maybe how they see their lives. I think that's what really makes me happy, and what I want to do with my life is constantly evoke change.
That is awesome. That I absolutely love that. I mean, to make an impact and to constantly evoke positive change. I think that's incredible. So let's take a bit of a step back. So, if I said to you that, what would you say to somebody who doesn't know what they want to do right now? So I'm going to split this into 3 separate people. Person A, just really short, sweet, you'd say this, that to them. But person A is somebody in matric. What would you say to somebody who is in matric who, says, Tanya, I have no idea what I want to do next. Do I even want to go to varsity? Do I want to go get some other kind of training? Do I want to go start a business? Do I want to go work for somebody? Do I want to go get another sort of skill set? That's person A. Person B, someone in university first year, like yourself, when you were in university first year. And then person C is somebody who's working. So what would you individually say to those 3 separate? And let's start with person A, which is somebody in matric.
So, that's quite funny, because as I think about this, I don't know if the stuff that I was saying would be so different amongst all those different sets of people.
Yeah.
Because I think the underlying message that I would pull through to every single one of those people is that nothing is set in stone, and that you can make a decision and still change your course. We actually have this methodology of project management in consulting. It's called agile project management. It's quite a buzzword at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've come across it before.
I'm aware of it. Yeah.
And agile is all about incremental development. It's all about developing a solution that actually really caters for the needs of the consumer or the business need or whatever the case might be. And I think there's actually such a strong parallel between using agile to run your life, because often we think that it's so bloody important to have this plan. Just much like how in corporates, when we plan these projects, that we need to have a whole project plan of how everything's going to pan out from start to finish. But actually, what we've seen in these waterfall type projects in corporates is that it doesn't actually end up the way that you want, and you might end up creating something that the customer doesn't want or that the business doesn't need, because you're not making these short incremental changes that actually are tested by real customers or real people in the business. And so I'd like to apply the same sort of thing to people's lives, is that you don't need to have this big project plan for your life. You don't need to plan every single thing, because actually your needs are going to evolve as a human and as a person throughout your life. And if instead of you focus on having one dream, having short sprints of goals, short-term goals that you want to achieve, whether it is for now you want to cum laude your degree, or you want to do something outside of, if it's not even just part of your career, if it's part of your sport or your fitness, short sprint, and then reassess after your goal and say, well, what is it that I learned from that? What is it that has changed what I want to do going forward? And then you'll really start to realize that you can agile project management your life through these short little sprints of planning something, so that you don't wake up one day and have a life that you don't want, that you've actually really made decisions based on what you need and what you love doing.
That's really awesome. Sure. And I have, agile is, like you said, is really just about, constantly evolving and constantly, adapting and developing that sort of adaptability. So that's really awesome. So let's take us a bit of a step back. Let's, calm it down a little bit, turn the temperature down a little bit, let's turn it down a little bit. So let's get to know you a little bit better, right? So tell us a little bit about your daily routine. So what's a typical day in your life? And actually one of the questions from the listeners was around, pre sort of COVID, what's your sort of daily sort of type routine? So let's stick to that. And is it what you expected as well?
So it's so funny, because that word routine, I hate that word. I told you that I love change. That's why I'm in consulting, is because everything is constantly changing. So it's quite funny, because right now, because I'm in the consulting space, I would say there's normal Tanya and there's project Tanya. Because when I'm on a project, life is so hectic and chaotic. I mean, a typical day is wake up very early, around 5:30 or something, and then I'd go and horse ride for about an hour or so, get back, get ready, get dressed, so that we were on our first call before we go into client meetings. So sort of starting at about quarter to 8, and then we'd be on calls with clients the whole day, trying to execute the project virtually, so we're not seeing people, and that's where it's very different to running normal projects. In consulting, is you typically go to a client and go and execute the work there. So right now we've seen in all these different projects that we are actually executing all of our work remotely and through calls and through these virtual collaboration platforms, and it's been unbelievable. But it is madness in the project. You have little time for lunch, you have little time for anything else. You find yourself working until probably about 5 or 6 with the clients, and then you have to take a step back and possibly do your own work. So it's quite hectic, and then most of the time I'm so tired that I'll just watch a series or prepare for the next day, or go to bed so that I can be ready for the next day. That's Project Tanya. And then sort of non-Project Tanya has a bit more of a relaxed life, that doing proposals and things, getting things ready for new clients, trying to win work, and a bit more time to exercise and not just go full speed ahead, but really has tipped things on. Everybody is dealing with this problem at the moment of work-life balance, and I think the biggest change that I didn't really think about was just how when you're in a virtual environment, there's just no boundary, and you can so easily just stay so consumed on your computer and in calls and that you don't really realize that you haven't really stepped and got something to eat or a cup of coffee. I think that possibly, I'm a very sociable person. I love people, and I think that is very different from what I was expecting.
Yeah.
From if I were to stay, if I were to think about what I was expecting with consulting, I thought I'd be around a lot more people. But we really had to reimagine the way that we do it, and it's been unbelievable in the various interactions we've had. And you've got to just keep things light-hearted and funny all the time, to just keep the spirits up and the morale up. So we do regular Zoom dance parties, lots of fun. Yeah.
Very nice. So tell me, are you a morning or evening person, or both?
It's so funny. I don't know. People have asked me that before, because I can get up in the morning and be so happy and excited, but I can also work throughout the night, and be quite happy at like 2:00 in the morning working along, So I'd say I'm both, really, because I'm vibrant. I mean, I'm vibrant all the time, I'd say, except when someone can give me a cup of coffee. I love that.
And so, I mean, I was going to ask you, what meal are you craving once restaurants are open? But restaurants are obviously open now in South Africa. But which coffee place did you go to first? Is probably my sort of other question.
I mean, Tupper, you're a coffee lover just like me, and I think we have a love for Seattle coffee. We absolutely love it. Tupper's posting Instagram stories of Seattle, and so am I. So yeah, I love Seattle coffee, but also have a whole bunch of other coffee stores that in the community that I just love. Third Space, DC Coffee, Brewtown, all in my area. Now Fourth Avenue Coffee Roasters, they make the best coffee. All of them. I think there's a huge community element. Like, I have my coffee people everywhere, and I think that was one of the biggest things that I missed so much of when we were in hard lockdown, was just not seeing my coffee people all around Joburg, because you miss that interaction. So I guess coffee.
So let's dive into digital transformation, right? And particularly, of companies in South Africa. So for the sake of our listeners, and for somebody who has no idea what we are talking about when we say those two words, digital transformation, what do you understand it to be?
So the way that I typically explain what digital transformation is to just about anyone is, it's essentially future-proofing your business. It's ensuring that your business is going to remain competitive for years to come, based on the decisions that you make now, based on analyzing every aspect of market trends, what your customers are doing, what internally what's happening in your business, and ensuring that you take all of that together and encompass it in this one amazing organization that's constantly changing, and enabling decisions that essentially will allow for that competitive nature of the business to remain for years to come.
Okay, so what would you say is the need? Why is the need for us to digitally transform now so great? So what is it that makes this need so great for us in South Africa to digitally transform right now?
There's another buzzword, Tuffer, that we always come across, and that's the dawn of the fourth industrial revolution. And there's just so much uncertainty around it, and how are we going to change as people and as businesses, and how is that going to transform? And I think the dawn of this fourth industrial revolution has made it more prevalent than ever for us to be for businesses to be able to ensure that their offerings are linked to what people actually really want and need in the market. But not only that, but that they are catering for the needs of their employees. And I think it's really important right now, because otherwise these businesses are not going to be here in 10 years' time. If you don't see the need to innovate and change the way that you're doing business, you're not going to be here, because all these little startups and fintechs and all these businesses that are so agile and nimble will come and eat your market share quicker than you can say the word innovate, because it's a huge problem, because I think a lot of these businesses have underestimated the power of all these other little new entrants, and I think nobody that can do your job better than you, and I think it's really important that you ensure that you make decisions that keep you at that position within the market and or grow your market share as a business, rather than allowing what you've always done, we'll do what we'll always do type mentality, and that'll keep us growing and successful. Actually, no. You're at your most vulnerable when you're your most successful, because businesses don't realize that the decisions that they made yesterday are not going to be the ones that are going to equip them with the tools for tomorrow.
Absolutely. And it's almost what you're basically saying is businesses have to remain agile, right? And part of that agility is the sort of digital transformation journey. So, I mean, with that, what is your assessment of where South Africa is right now with the digital transformation journey? And, coupled with that, what do you think are the biggest barriers for us in our digital transformation journey at the moment?
Geez, it's a tough one to say with South Africa, because if we look at a lot of our industries, we have a lot of amazing businesses that are coming through, that are both as little startups, but also as legacy businesses. And we have our banking is amazing. But the problem is, I'd say we are not doing so well, especially with the big legacy businesses, because we haven't really innovated, and we've just carried on going with the same stuff we've always been doing. So I think that's why some of these amazing little startups and South African startups are so exciting to watch, because they are really looking at the trends that are going on in the market and creating these amazing little businesses. So I think there is definitely some potential, but I don't think that we're nearly up there with some of the rest of the world, the businesses around and the culture around digital transformation there. I think the big problems in South Africa is that it takes a lot of time and effort and resources to be able to actually digitally transform an old legacy type business, because you have a lot of baggage, the legacy behind it, and you don't want to release that. And I think that mentality has what's hindered a lot of our big businesses from actually transforming. And I think the mentality around that, let's just slap an app, let's just make a piece of tech that we're gonna do, and then we're actually not really realizing what it actually takes to deliver a solution that our customers really want, because we think that tech is going to save us, but by creating an app or a new website or a new dashboard, but it's really got nothing to do with the tech.
So leading on from that, so tell me about what you think makes a successful digital transformation strategy within an organization. So what are the sort of key building blocks for that?
So, Taf, I think that one of the biggest things that people underestimate, and I touched a bit on it just now, was that it actually takes a transformation from the heart, and that's the people element. Because as I said, you can take a piece of tech, an app, a dashboard, a whole new system that you've built, and slap it all together and expect, well, this is the most amazing, piece of technology that we have, and this is why we'll be transformed, and this is what we're going to do well. And it actually doesn't make an impact at all, because you fail to realize that you have human beings in your business. Those are the people that are going to execute your change. So I think what makes a digital transformation strategy truly successful is if you take the heart of the organization of your people and ensure that you equip them with the tools to actually carry out the change, and that you don't need other people to come in and create a new solution for you, but that the innovation and the ideas come from within the business. And that comes from focusing on your people and the skills of your people, and equipping them with the tools to be able to sustain that. So I touched on a bit earlier, and I think, I'm just thinking now, your question about what are our biggest barriers in South Africa, I think one of our biggest is the skills. We just don't have we don't have a culture of innovation that's coming through our universities and things, and our schools that are equipping our generations to be able to cope with the rapid need to be able to, cater for all these big changes and problems within the world. So that's another aspect of it, is just, equipping your staff with the tools to be able to execute on of being a fully digitally transformed business.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And that's incredibly powerful. It's almost strange that it's really sort of paradoxical in that digital transformation involves technology, but actually at the heart of it is people, as you rightly point out. That's a very sort of key point. So if, what do you think, building onto that, what are the things that companies most underestimate in terms of the impact and the effort in digital transformation?
So I think they mostly underestimate how difficult it is to be able to successfully implement it from end to end, in terms of transferring the needs and the skills to their staff and the people.
Yes.
Having the infrastructure to do so. I think they underestimate the need for leaders to be able to lead their people through this change, and not just instruct them on it and just tell them, well, this is what's going to happen, and not actually really help their people through the change and help their business through the and I think that's what they really underestimate is the fact that their decisions, a lot of leaders make these decisions to execute a new piece of tech, and they don't realize the impact on their people. I keep talking about people, but people are what drive digital transformation and not technology. Technology merely enables digital transformation. Whereas our people are the ones that are going to execute it. And I think leaders really underestimate that they themselves need to make positive changes in the way that they've structured the business. You can't expect your employees to be able to creatively think if you haven't made an environment for them to do so. So it's about the culture, it's about innovation, it's about collaboration and ensuring that your employees are equipped to carry out that change.
That's really powerful. That's so awesome. And what you're really talking about is a people-centered strategy, right? And focusing on that. So, and if I sort of build on that, what do you think is the role of the youth in executing the strategy? So what role can the youth play in this?
As I alluded to earlier, I sometimes worry a bit with the type of skills we are teaching through our education system within South Africa. And I think there's such a huge role for encouraging people to become entrepreneurs in terms of how we think. I mean, you don't have to be an entrepreneur starting your own business to be an entrepreneur. You can be an entrepreneur within a business. An entrepreneur is what a lot of people call it. So I think the role that the youth have to play on this is for the youth to actually get the skills to be able to carry out these digital transformations within businesses, because they have the fresh perspectives already. But it's also not just hard skills, it's what we call soft skills. So I don't necessarily like the term soft skills, because it's actually so hard to have a good soft skill, if that makes sense. Soft skills are the most difficult skills to master. Communication, collaboration, being curious, creative thinking, all those sorts of difficult traits, they're very hard to be able to cultivate, and that's where the youth really have to take on the role of developing those skills and emotionally intelligent.
That's really powerful. And so, how do we build that generation of digital leaders? So where do we actually start in order for us to build that generation of digital leaders in your mind?
So I alluded to it a bit earlier as well, with the aspect of emotional intelligence, and I really believe that people don't realize the power of being truly emotionally intelligent, because people think that being emotionally intelligent is about managing relationships with other people, when it's actually only one tiny little component of it. Because being truly emotionally intelligent is not only being aware of your relationships, but it's about being aware of people. It's about being aware of yourself and also managing yourself. So I think in order for us to really and truly build a legacy of digital leaders that are going to be able to carry out these massive changes and build amazing businesses, we need to be emotionally intelligent and be able to really understand ourselves and how our decisions are going to affect other people. And that's what being emotionally intelligent is about. And I'm not saying that I've mastered anything about it. I mean, I went through that whole journey last year of really understanding what it is that makes you tick, because that's the first aspect of being emotionally intelligent, is understanding yourself, your flaws, who you really are, you know, from start to finish, your good side and your bad side, and being able to manage both of those sides. Because that's where the element of being a leader is, that element of responsibility of how you make these changes, and you expect your employees or people to carry it out. You need to be able to understand how your decisions impact your employees, and that comes from being self-aware and managing yourself and being socially aware and managing those relationships.
That is so critical. I mean, you've really touched on, you know, the heart of being able to invest in a generation, right, and being able to actually create that generation for the future. And so finally, on digital transformation, right? So to the small business owner, you know, what would you say to them? Where did they actually start in this digital transformation journey? How did they digitally transform, right, whilst also balancing their balance sheet as well?
So it's quite funny, because I think people always feel that digital transformation takes a lot of money and budget. It doesn't. It's being digital is not about tech. It's about thinking, and it's about being curious and being creative. And I think a small business owner, the best thing a small business owner can do is to not be afraid of what the youth or not even just the youth, but people within the business have to say about certain things. It's about encouraging that freedom of thinking and that innovation culture that's going to enable that digital transformation. And you know what? It's so funny, because the irony is that people are saying, well, how am I going to change everything that I really do? But it's actually essential for you to change what you're going to do, because you won't remain competitive. And that's why, as a small business owner, we need to encourage constant innovation and change, so that you can remain competitive, that you can stay there, so that tomorrow your business will still be there. Because we need small businesses in South Africa. We need far more entrepreneurs that are building these businesses. So that's what I would say to them.
Yeah, and that's a really awesome piece of advice. And to any small business leaders, entrepreneurs, or future entrepreneurs, I hope that you're taking notes by this point. If not, rewind and start again, because Tanya's giving us some really awesome pieces of information. Yeah.
Think, collaborate, all those amazing new ways of thinking, of working, and fresh ideas. And also, don't be afraid to admit that you are not the most intelligent or clever person in the room. I think that comes from being self-aware, is being able to look and say, well, I'm not actually the most intelligent person, or I don't always know the answer. But it's about approach, finding that answer and collaborating with other people. And that's what a small business owner should do, is encourage that collaboration within their businesses, so that they get new ideas and build a culture that enables them to be there tomorrow.
That's really awesome. Sure. That's really, really powerful. Let's talk creating shared value, right? So this concept.
I love this topic.
So unpack it for me. What is your understanding of shared value? What is it?
Gee, so you know what, Tapa, we really live in a world full of a lot of problems. You know, these wicked problems, as they call them, poverty, lack of food and water, global warming, climate change, all those sorts of big problems that exist in the world. And it's always been the idea that, well, we can't solve all of them, and who actually tries to tackle and solve them? It's all these NGOs, and it's governments, and it's volunteers, it's a charity, it's an afterthought to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that's what's traditionally been the mentality, is that I'm going to give money to a cause that's going to try and fix this problem.
Yes.
What shared value talks to is, it's quite incredible that you don't need to truly be an NGO or someone who only focuses on that to be able to help us solve the problem.
Yeah.
And where shared value is, it's actually where business really meets social problems. It's having a business that solves a social problem with the business model. And because I think businesses feel that they can't do both at the same time. I think they feel that they need to do it at the expense of society, make a profit at the expense of society, but it's not true. You can exploit, and I actually don't want to use the exploit, I would say hop onto that amazing opportunity that lies to be able to bring value to people while still making a profit. And the reason why that's so important is because some of the NGOs of the world, it's not sustainable to rely on donations and money from the government to be able to help that. And that's why we're not solving these big wicked problems, because we can't scale them. It's just, there's that constant need for solving unlimited problems with limited resources. And when we do have a profit coming in, is where we can scale those solutions. So shared value is really just about solving a social problem with a business model attached to it, so that you can actually solve a problem by actually still making money. And that's what it is to me.
What you're describing there is to me sounds like, sustainable change, right? So a sustainable change that, can really be built into a business model, as you rightly point out, right? And can actually address continuously, and not just on a once-off basis, right? Continuously address the social needs as well. So what do you think is the difference between, creating shared value, or CSV, as people call it, and corporate social responsibility? So CSR, CSV, I think a lot of people might think that you're referring to corporate social responsibility, right, by now. What do you think is the difference between the two?
So, the thing is with CSR is that it's always viewed as a separate part of business. It's not linked to profit. So yes, we are being more eco-friendly in our business. We are going on Saturdays to go and do volunteering. It's kind of also limited by our corporate budget. Whereas creating shared value is actually saying, well, we are going to find opportunities that are going to be linked to our profit. So we're going to find, so we can still solve these problems while making a profit. For example, one of the biggest problems in the world is financial inclusion. And I feel like it's just an incredible opportunity that's still sitting there in the market that there are some businesses that are trying to tackle it, but that is a wicked problem that there are people all over the world that don't have access to financial services. And it's a huge problem. We have an unbanked population everywhere. But there lies an opportunity for a business to go and not exploit the people, but to go and actually create a solution that's going to help those people, that's going to enable them to send money over borders, cross-border payments, or to be able to transact and save money and not be exploited by informal lending and loan sharks, get access to credits, all sorts of things. You can create a business all around that and still make money. You don't have to help someone and just carry on giving money to them. You can actually really, truly make a solution that yields a profit. And that's where people need to differentiate the ideas of CSR and CSV, is that CSV actually is about building a sustainable business. It's saying that you need to be able to make a profit in order to help people. And it has to be a balance. That's why it's shared value. The value is shared. It's not just the business getting the economic value, but it's the society getting the societal value.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful and really profound. So ultimately, in a South African context, right, the implementation of this principle, how can it change the way that we do business in South Africa?
So there are some businesses that have kind of delved into the idea of CSV. I don't know if we have, I don't know if some of the bigger businesses really have. I still feel like they're stuck in the idea of, well, CSR, it's a separate part of our business. It's what we do on weekends. It's not something we do every day. I think that it must be something that you wake up every single day and do. And it must be embedded in your business decisions. And in South Africa, we have such a huge opportunity to kind of uplift our entire population and community all over South Africa through enabling people within communities to have jobs. For example, we have a lot of people that are living below the poverty line, and it's horrendous. But the problem is that there are all these initiatives to raise money and get food and collect goods and that to donate. But that's a once-off thing.
Yes.
Something that happens once a year or once every few months. And then what happens to those people when all of that runs out? When all of the resources, the money, whatever was given to them and donated. So you actually help someone more by giving them a sustainable solution in terms of giving them a job, teaching them a skill, and then by constantly giving them money. So in South Africa, we have such exciting opportunities to take people that don't have any skills and train them up to be able to perform business activities and things, so that as part of your supply chain. And the reason why this will also yield business benefits is because if we have more people within the community earning money, we have more people that are going to be able to spend money, and it's going to stimulate local economic activity. And the thing is, we actually need to bring everybody up. Right now we live in a country that is so economically divided in terms of our inequality, that there's been so many studies shown and so many case studies done in the developing economic space, showing that us uplifting everybody, we actually will help ourselves and our businesses. And a big, one of the biggest roles our South African businesses have is to look at their supply chains. Why are we only getting goods from China? Why are we only importing goods? Why can we not try and look at all these little entrepreneurs in the community that are making things that we can actually link with them to be able to make a business? And I think that's where the role really is.
And create that sustainable link, right? I mean, and not just a once-off, okay, cool, that's it, right? It's actually about how do we create a sustainable link that will alter families, right, of today, but also families of tomorrow and families of 10 years' time. I really think you've touched on something so important there. And so finally, what is the role that the government can play in all of this? So is there a space for government to play in the creating of shared value in our economy?
It is quite a tough question. That I would say that the biggest role that they can play is to show their stance on encouraging social entrepreneurship and to give incentives, sort of tax benefits and things to businesses that are doing good for communities in the form of creating those societal businesses. And I don't mean doing good for the community. Let's go and drop off food. Let's go and I'm talking about businesses, creating actual businesses that are socially responsible, but driven by this underlying sustainable profits. I think businesses should, government should sort of have tax benefits and things for these businesses, because those businesses are going to be the ones that do government's job in terms of helping communities in that. Because if they can fix a problem with a sustainable solution, that problem will never happen ever again.
Yes, exactly. That's really powerful. And I think that's so important. What you said there is that actually it enhances the implementation of government strategy as well. It's actually not something which is a push-pull. It's actually we both pushing in the same direction, we both want to change South Africa for the better, right?
Exactly.
So Tanya, thank you so much. This was sure. I think I need to watch this back and make some notes. Like, sure, that was quite a lot. And I think anybody who has has listened up to this point and hasn't taken a look at the pre-readings that are up on the website, do take a look. Some awesome insights on digital transformation as well as creating shared value as well. And we'd love to hear from everybody, what they thought and what their thoughts are on how we can actually, digitally transform South Africa whilst also creating shared value in the process, right, as well. And Tanya, I just want to thank you so much for coming onto the show, for just an awesome episode, a lovely chat. It really just kind of felt like, we just started the show, but we're already sort of just under an hour in. So I just want to thank you so much for taking us on the journey of your life, firstly, and the lessons that you learned through that. I think that was incredibly powerful for anybody, who might be sort of wrestling with what is it that they want to do, and, also broadening their perspective and, being intentional in that. And I also want to thank you as well for, educating us on, what digital transformation is, inspiring us in terms of how we can implement this in our society and in our economy, as well as creating shared value as well. I just really want to thank you so much for coming onto the show. And I think, there's a couple of things that you were talking about where I was like, you know what, I'd really love to talk to Tanya about that next time. So I'd really love to have you back on the show sometime in the future as well.
Tapa, thank you so much for having me. It's been so great to be given the space to talk freely about some of the most incredible topics that are currently going on and things that are in the world. And I think this is such an amazing podcast that you've started, because we need to have these conversations, conversations that are going to help change the world. And I mean, I'm not saying that I know anything about anything in the world, but I'm glad that I was able to share just my little bit of what I've come across. So thank you so much for having me, and wishing all the best with this in the future. And I look forward to the next ones. I'm so excited to see who you have next.
No, wonderful. Thank you so much, Tanya. And keep safe, keep healthy, wash your hands, wear a mask, take all the necessary precautions until we meet again.
Awesome. Thanks, Tafa. Have a wonderful day.